Welcome back. All right, list video. How do you guys feel about a list video today? How do you feel about grading coaches? So, grading coaches is difficult. It absolutely is. And I think that coaching in general in the National Hockey League right now is arguably the best it's been. With the technology at hand, with the amount of assistant coaches you have, with the associate coaches you have, with the amount of help that you have in terms of advanced scouting and everything, I think coaching now is, well, it's really hard to do this, to figure out who the best and rank them all the way down is. This was a top 10 list that became a top 12. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do 10, but I didn't like that I was leaving certain ones off. And I want to throw an honorable mention towards Peter DeBoer for what he was able to do with the Vegas team that was kind of middling with Gallant. And then when Gallant gets fired, DeBoer comes in, there was all this hate being thrown in that direction. He made it work. They made the Final Four. So I do give him credit for that. These are all coaches who are currently employed as well. So certain coaches who may not be employed are not in the top 12. So these are employed coaches. Number 12, showing how difficult the list this is, Craig Berube. And an honorable mention to Rod Brind'Amour too while I'm at it. Because Brind'Amour is able to get something out of the Canes that I don't know if other coaches will be able to do. As Berube proved his first year with the St. Louis Blues. It was a bit more difficult this time around. They had their struggles in the return. And I understand that there were members of the Blues that weren't well during that playoff run as well. So, Berube, I still think one of the better coaches in the league. I do have him in the top 12. I don't have him in the top 11, though. So, again, this is why I ended up going to 12. At number 11, I'm going to make sure I'm using the right. It's one of those double-sided markers. I love the double-sided markers. They don't usually last very long. Number 11, Paul Maurice in Winnipeg. He gets a lot of flack when the Jets are underperforming, but I still think he's a very good coach. I think he's a good communicator, and I think he has a really good relationship with the players. Yes, there have been discussions about Patrick Laine and his usage and questions that come back on Maurice, but at least he sticks to it. I haven't seen any sign that Paul Maurice is backing down or saying, well, yeah, he might be right if. He stands his ground, and I respect him for that. I do. I have Maurice at number 11 on this board, and I think he's going to be coach of the Jets for a long time yet. Number 10, another coach of a Canadian team, Dave Tippett. Very, very good regular season results for the Edmonton Oilers, and then, of course, they lost the play-in round against the Chicago Blackhawks, which kind of undid what they did during the regular season. It did take some of that shine off. But Tippett is very good at coaching defensively, and honestly, he is very good with players. I remember when he was in Dallas, I was very impressed with him in general, and I haven't seen anything of his time in Edmonton yet to tell me that he's not going to be successful there. I still think that Edmonton has a good chance of surprising some people in the positive, and I think Tippett could be one of the reasons why. Number 9, Alain Vigneault. Alain Vigneault is a solid coach. He's been around for a very long time. There's a reason he keeps getting hired. He helped the Philadelphia Flyers take a huge jump in the standings this year. Yes, they had their struggles during the play-in playoffs. Not I said play-in, but during the round robin, and yet they ended up finishing first in the East, right? But despite their issues with scoring in rounds 1 and 2, I still think the Flyers are going to end up winning a championship sooner or later, hopefully sooner. And it would be nice to see Alain Vigneault finally get a ring. I think he's been worthy of one for a long time. Number 8, and he wouldn't have been on the board if I'd done this before the return. Something with Rick Bowness in Dallas. It just works. Maybe all of these years and years and years behind a bench, maybe it's made Bowness a better coach, but it clicked in Dallas. He was able to get the most out of that team. You look at some of the comebacks that they had in the playoffs, and a lot of it comes down to Bowness, knowing when to make line changes, knowing when to make goaltending changes, and when not to. And so there are a lot of aspects of Bowness's coaching that seem to have gotten better. Bowness struggled as a coach in numerous stops along the way. As a head coach, assistant coach, he's always been top notch. And now it seems like in Dallas, as a head coach, he's finally arrived. So, yeah, I have Bowness at number 8. Number 7. Now, you can look at Bruce Cassidy in Boston and say, well, yeah, but anybody could get Boston to that kind of a record. I don't know that they can. And I don't know that with all of the veterans, and I imagine there's some egos in that locker room, I'm not sure you could get them all on the same page unless you're a solid coach that can get them to listen to what you're saying. And Cassidy has a very good track record with the Bruins. Ever since he took over, it's been magic for them. So while, Claude Julien has gone on, and he's not on this board, but I think Julien's a better coach than he gets credit for from some fans as well, even myself included back in 2011. Before the Stanley Cup win, I was really on about how this club won't win anything under Claude Julien, and then they did. With Cassidy taking over, it's been fantastic. And he has gone through a lot to get to this point, and he's an excellent coach. Number 6, going to Colorado. Considering all the injuries that Colorado had during the season, the fact that the record was as good as it was, a lot of that had to do with Bednar behind the bench. He is a very smart coach, adjusts in game very well, and that's a huge thing in the NHL, and has been for a long time. There have been coaches who've been praised in the past that I thought, oh, he's good, but when did he adjust? And it's one of the reasons why I have Vigneault at 9 rather than higher, because in-game adjustments with Vigneault, I remember yelling at him plenty as a Canuck fan. While everybody else was yelling about Aaron Rome being in the lineup, I was the guy who was yelling, no, you need to adjust. It's the third period, you're behind by 1, they're doing that. Why aren't you? Oh, never mind, game's over. Yeah, no, that's fine. Bednar adjusts well. And so for Colorado, I think he's going to be their coach for a long time. Number 5, and this is where it gets really difficult. Joel Quenneville has 3 cup rings. He has 3 cup rings for the Colorado Avalanche. And he is an excellent coach. But things in Florida didn't turn out that great. And they lost in the play-in round against the Islanders. And I would go as far as to say that, yes, the better coach in that series was the coach that won. And so for Quenneville, he is going to get numerous opportunities with Florida to prove his worth, and I think he'll get there. But for me, right now, I would have him at number 5 on the board. If we were doing over their careers, Quenneville would probably be a bit higher. But as for right now, I would have Quenneville at number 5. And is one of the reasons why I will be still optimistic Florida turns things around until they find a way to set it all on fire and screw up again, and they'll be like, why do I always have faith in the Panthers? Number 4. My favorite coach in the league, John Tortorella. He is. John Tortorella came out of that year in Vancouver, and honestly, it seems like it changed him. That he came out of that 1-year experience in Vancouver, realized that style of coaching wasn't going to work. And in Columbus, it's just been fantastic. Not from the very beginning. When he came in for Columbus, it seemed to be an odd fit in the very beginning, but they've made it work. And they've definitely created a roster that works for Tortorella. You see the guys that get brought in trades, the guys they sign as free agents, they're Tortorella players. You have to be willing to block shots. You have to be willing to play at both ends of the rink. You have to have intensity every shift. And if you seem a bit lazy or passive, if you're not playing the 200-foot game, Tortorella has no qualms about sitting you out. And so for that reason, Tortorella to me is a great coach. He motivates his players. Number 3, if you told me a year ago, hey, so you're going to have John Cooper at number 3 on the best coaches in the league, I would have said, not after what he did against Columbus. Against Columbus in 2019, it wasn't just that the Tampa Bay Lightning got swept. It was that Cooper seemed, he didn't seem to be overly intense. It didn't seem like any of it was upsetting him until like halfway through game 4. This playoffs, if you watched Cooper, far more upset, far more emotional, far more into it. And it just felt like he wanted this too. So while the Tampa Bay Lightning were out on the ice looking for revenge for what happened last year, so was Cooper. And that intensity behind the bench, I think, made a big difference. Adding Gaudreau, adding Coleman and other pieces that they had for that run to the Stanley Cup, great move. But Cooper behind the bench just seemed different. And, it was a really frustrating thing for me last year watching that loss in the first round where they got swept, because it just felt like Cooper was disengaged. And I don't know what was going on. I don't know how real that is, but that's how it felt. This year, no. This year, this was a fantastic coaching job by him. And now he's coached minimum 2 more years. They could have a terrible year this coming season, and he's still going to keep his job. Minimum 2 more years. Could be 5, 6 years for Cooper. So yeah, I have him at number 3. Number 2, it's interesting. If Pittsburgh gets off to a slow start, I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Sullivan ended up being out of a job. But Mike Sullivan getting that Pittsburgh Penguins team with all the injuries they had to key big-name players to the record they had is nothing short of remarkable. Sullivan and Bednar, to me, were both fantastic for that this year. And, yes, Berube in St. Louis. I'm wearing St. Louis because, just to say, hey, I don't hate Berube here by having him at 12th. There were some teams that really struggled with injuries, but they didn't struggle on the ice. And for Pittsburgh, it was insane seeing, okay, so Crosby's out. Well, they're done. And then, no, they weren't done. It gets overshadowed, much like Tippett here in Edmonton. It gets overshadowed by what happened in the playoffs. That in a play-in round against Montreal, they get eliminated. They don't make it to the round of 16. So that looked awful. But I don't think Sullivan got out-coached. I really don't. I'm not taking anything away from Claude Julien. I think it was just one team got the goaltending and that key play here and there, and Pittsburgh just didn't. And you could throw some of that on Sullivan, sure, but for me, I think what he did during the regular season is nothing short of remarkable, getting that team to that record. That's why when people say, does a coach really make a difference? Yes, absolutely he does, both ways. He can be to the team's detriment. He can be to the team's betterment. The first name that comes to mind is Mike Keenan. He's done both. Keenan, in his NHL career as a coach, you've seen him take good team and make them not good. And there's been times where he came in and a team was better under Keenan than they were before he got there. It's bizarre. So yeah, number 1, this should not surprise anybody. Not the green one. This should not surprise anybody. Barry Trotz with the Islanders. As long as Trotz is the coach with the Islanders, they should be a playoff team. And I don't know that it matters who's in their locker room. I don't know that it matters who the assistant coaches are. It definitely helps having Lou Lamoriello as GM. He's a good GM. He makes smart moves. But Barry Trotz, to me, is the best coach. Absolutely fantastic coach. And he's already built, in my eyes, a Hall of Fame resume. Between the insanely long run he had as coach in Nashville and keeping that team competitive when they had no business being competitive, and now what he's done getting a cup in Washington, and now taking an Islanders team that on paper doesn't look very good and getting him to the playoffs in back-to-back years, it's nothing short of remarkable. So to me, Barry Trotz is the best coach, and is the reason why of the teams on the board, I could see the Islanders, I could see Colorado, and those are the 2 that I look at and I say, you know what, they could get there because of who's behind the bench. Bednar during all the injuries, Sullivan too, all the injuries. Anyways, there you go. It's tough to come up with a list of 12 best coaches because it means there's 19 others that aren't in the list. If they're not on this board, it doesn't mean I hate that coach, and it doesn't mean I forgot him either. It just means we have some very, very good coaches in the NHL, and it's quite the list. So let me know what you guys think in the comments section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.